Welcome to Mr. Lehman's Knowledge Explosion. The purpose of today's video lesson is to introduce you to conditional statements. Many of you use or see conditional statements on a regular basis, and these statements are the foundation of logic and reasoning. Here's one of my favorite conditional statements of all time. If you want something you've never had, then you've got to do something you've never done. Awe-inspiring, I know, and I believe it to be true. But if we look closely at this statement, we can see it contains two parts. The first part is called the hypothesis, or the if part. When the hypothesis gets met, that leads to a conclusion, or the then part. Those are the two pieces of a conditional statement. Please take notice. We sometimes call these if-then statements, but the if does not have to be at the beginning of the sentence. Take one of my favorite quotes from Walt Disney, for example. All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. In this example, the hypothesis is found at the end of the sentence, but is easily identified by the word if. Now, some conditional statements will not contain the words if and then, but we can rewrite them that way to help identify the hypothesis and conclusion. In this example, I can rewrite the statement to say if two planes intersect, then they intersect at a line. Now I can easily identify the hypothesis as if two planes intersect, which leads me to the conclusion, then they intersect at a line. Once we can identify the hypothesis and conclusion of statements, we can write the other three forms of that statement, which are the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. The converse of an original statement switches the hypothesis and conclusion to create a new statement. For example, if our original statement is, if a segment is bisected, then the segment is cut in half. The converse would be, if a segment is cut in half, then it is bisected. The inverse of a statement places the negation, or the opposite, in both the hypothesis and the conclusion. The inverse of our original statement would be, if a segment is not bisected, then the segment is not cut in half. The contrapositive of a statement, however, is the converse of the inverse. Or in other words, we will switch the hypothesis and conclusion, and we will insert the negation into both parts. Therefore, the contrapositive of our original statement would be, if a segment is not cut in half, then it is not bisected. Now, each of these statements means something different, so please pause the video here and see if you can identify the hypothesis and conclusion of the following statement. Then write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of the statement to see how they are different. Hopefully you paused the video and wrote the following statements. Remember, the main goal here is to be able to take any conditional statement and identify the hypothesis and conclusion, and understand that the converse is a different statement using those same parts. We are not as interested in the inverse and contrapositive, but it is good to know that they exist. Please complete the other examples in your workbook from Lesson 1 practice, and see me if you have any questions. Good luck!